Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to EOSC Federation Opportunities and Challenges in Building a Node session. My name is Aneta Pazik-Ajbar. I'm the head of the Open Science team at the National Science Center Poland, and together with Suzanne Dumuchel, director of the EOSC Association, we are pleased and honored to chair this important session. But before we dive in, it's worth underscoring that this event marks a very important milestone in building the Federation. So the Federation is moving from design to operations and becoming operationally thanks to the joint effort undertaken by the candidate nodes and with the shared effort of the community. Yesterday and today in the morning, we explored some of the multi-node-to-node use cases, and they set the stage perfectly for our discussion today, where we'll focus on the individual journeys of the 4 nodes, and we'll be looking forward to hear insights from them about the journeys. About a year ago, the tripartite governance launched a call for the first wave of the nodes, candidate nodes, that stepped forward to help shape the Federation. The build-up phase started here in Brussels just over 7 months ago. Since then, candidate nodes have been working hard, steadily to translate EOSC from vision into practice, aligning governance, advancing interoperability, onboarding, and shaping each node as an entry point to the Federation. Today, we can appreciate the early milestones of a Federation that's taking shape and continuously developing. This afternoon, we'll hear individual stories of 4 nodes. Each of the nodes has a different story, I think, and we are very curious to hear them. So, a thematic node, PANOSC, is represented by Andy Gotts. Welcome, Andy. Not yet. Then we'll move on to the national nodes. So first we'll start with Jessica Parland von Essen. She will present the story of the EOSC node Finland. Then we'll move to Italy. Matteo Zanaroli will present Italian node, EOSC node Italy. And then we'll move on to infrastructure node, USAT, represented by Jos von Wetzel. So how we'll run the session today? So first, we will start with the brief presentations from each node. Then we will move on to a panel discussion. And then we will have an overview of the Slido outputs that we'll ask you to fill out in a minute. And then at the end, Suzanne, my co-chair, she will provide the key takeaways and some insight about the way we should be headed when it comes to EOSC. So now you can see a QR code. So we would like to invite everyone to use this code because with Suzanne together we prepared some set of questions for you as well, because we want to be this a truly interactive session. So on the one hand we have the panelists, but on the other hand we'll be happy to hear about your insights, about your potential journeys when it comes to build a node, onboard your services to an existing node. So please use this QR code. We'll see the results after the panel discussion. So without further ado, I would like to invite Andy to give a presentation about the thematic node, PANOSC.
Oh, great. So they fixed my slide. Actually, the slide wasn't perfect when I saw it 5 minutes ago. So yes, I'm Andy Gotts. I'm from the European Synchrotron in Grenoble, and I'm here to present the work of all of these facilities. So there are 9 facilities that were involved in this. We were asked to just outline briefly 5 points that what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how we did it. And so the photon and neutron facilities, if you don't know them, they are analytical facilities. So they study a huge range of different scientific fields, and it can range from anything from the nanometer up to the meter, or even a few meters. And these facilities are producing huge amounts of data. They've all also going through a kind of factor of 100 increase in data over the last few years because they're going through upgrades. There's a new kind of what's called the lattice. The accelerators are being improved so that we can actually have even stronger beams that can produce more data. And this is the journey we started with Panoskia in March, so was actually the continuation of what was already started 5 or 6 years ago in the 2 projects which were financed as part of the Infra EOSC. And the whole aim of doing this, why we're doing this and why we started doing this as well, is to improve what we find many scientists nowadays are challenged by these huge volumes of data, by the complexity of the experiments that they have to carry out. Many people come to these analytical facilities and are there only for a few days, and they might never come again, and they've never been there. So making this, we're using this, the work we're doing in EOS to make it easier for them. So what we've done, we've been asked to show a small demo of what we've actually developed over the last 7 months. So this is also building on what was developed previously. So you find a lot of information on our website. You'll see who's all involved. You can go and this is where we're now storing all this information that we have. We've created a first landing page, what we call, where on the landing page is where users would first find out about the node. So you have a service catalog, which is dynamic. So service catalog is managed. One of our main services that we're working on as a use case is called Pan Finder. So using AI to find data. So in this case, we were looking for a human brain. So this is an interesting data set that was found, which has just recently been awarded another 4 million to study how the brain actually detects a smell. So the olfactory function of the brain. Then you can go and find the DOI for this data, and this is something which wasn't possible beforehand, to find data so easily. You had to more or less know where it was. The services are quite varied at the moment, and then one of the areas that that's innovative about building the node is creating a space where users can go and have a history of what they've been doing, get access to more resources. So we've set up this, what's called the Pan space, where you can go and you can log in using your, of course, MyAccess ID, and you can go and find training, you can find data, you can find access to compute resources. And keeping that as a coherent user experience, we think this will help them. And this is really what's bringing the node services together. One of the main other services that we've developed is called the Virtual Research Environment, the VRE, which we have developed in Panos, called Visa. And Visa, we also have, of course, we have workflows, but this one is not with Galaxy. This is a workflow which is a different system. And it's just showing how from this data, this is what the user would see on their screen when they go to the experiment, they're actually wanting to study the grains in a piece of copper. So I don't know if you know metals, they have a crystal structure and they organize together as grains. And there you can see, in the case on the left, you can see a single grain and they will study the orientation. And in the case on the right, they actually have identified all the grains in a piece of metal, aluminium, copper, whatever you want, alloys. And this will be used to, this data set could be a few terabytes big and is eventually reduced to this. The main challenges we've had, so this is something which I don't know, some of the other nodes I think are also facing as well, is the fact that we are independent facilities, financed independently as well, and bringing that together under a single, as a common service, this is the first time we will have a common service that we offer together. Of course, there has been no extra funding. This is a challenge in its own right, but it has also a silver lining to it. And we find that the Federation, we actually don't know what it's going to look like in a few years' time. So we are sort of navigating blind. I think, I hope that the video showed you some of the benefits there. I think the main benefit, I would say, is that we will be pushing the result that scientists will see is that they will come to these analytical facilities and take away processed data. Now, I don't know if this means much to you, but most people, you saw those raw images there. 10 years ago, they came to the analytical facilities and took away raw images. Now we want to bring all of the different hundreds of techniques that we offer to the state where they can use it directly and even during the time that they're at these facilities. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. And now, Jessica, the floor is yours. We are very much curious about your journey.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so the Finland node, in Finland we have a quite centralized and strong national infrastructure, and that's what we wanted to build upon to federate it and make it more coherent and accessible. So we already have a web page live at eosc.fi, where we have collected all the resources that we have available. A short demo about what we have there. First, we have the National Research Information Hub, where you can find, for instance, all Finnish research publications, of which half are open access. Then we have a National Research Data Catalog already in place, which you can access also from here. And then we have a set of tools that are available in our HPC environments, dozens of them. Then we also have some tools that are not for end users, but more for professionals. Those we have currently listed here in the web page, but hopefully later also in the catalog. And then we have a service catalog where we currently have our own services and services from the EU node. And for instance, now it's based on the CSC service catalog, which we are now expanding. So it follows the same data model as the EOSC catalog. And we have already onboarded one service, that's the Language Bank of Finland, which is also available through here. And now we are moving from this production environment to the test environment, where we now have federated my access ID. So, and we are soon ready to take this into production. And through this, you can then access our user space, where you see a data catalog which contains large data sets that are available in a computing environment. Then we have the same service catalog, and then the software catalog visible. So you're very welcome to go and look at this site. So the main challenges, in my opinion, were that this whole project was very fast-paced, and the development was happening on many levels, both on the federation level and on our level. So there was a lot of coordination and a need for a lot of communication regarding those requirements and what we were actually developing. Then there was a bit of lack, I think, and clear governance for the interoperability, how this process works and where to find the guidance and so forth. That's now better, but the process still needs to be worked on, in my opinion. And then originally we wanted to take part in the sensitive data use case on prostate cancer, which we saw, but moving sensitive data proved difficult, so we then weren't able to join. Nationally, I think this has been really a good thing. We have organized nationally in a good collaboration. So even though we are the main capabilities, so the core capabilities come from CSC, we are working to also federate now and intensify our national collaboration, and we have set up this governance model for this, which is really nice and useful. I also found that this was a nice way to leverage on EOSC to take forward our own national implementation of our reference architectures and to create this national service catalog, which we are going ahead with. And yeah, also in general, I think this was a good exercise in increasing the availability of fair data. The dataset as a service catalog was one of our use cases which we did internally with the Lumi AI Factory, and that was really useful to try to extend the metadata management into this computing environment. So I welcome you to come and discuss this dataset as a service at our booth, where we have more information on that. So that was my thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Before we move on to the third speaker, I would like to just mention, because we were just informed that you can only see one question, unfortunately, on a Slido. So we are aware of this. This is not all what we prepared with Suzanne. There are definitely more questions. So there is a small glitch. So how we are going to proceed. So now please respond to this one question, and then when we'll have a Slido part, we will just go live. I mean, basically, we'll show a question live, and then we'll be asking you to respond to this specific question. So this is how we are going to proceed. So now, Matteo, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Matteo Zanaroli, and I'm the coordinator of EOSC Node Italy. The Italian node is a national node that is managed by the ICSC Foundation that includes 50 members. Among them, there are several RPOs and institutions within the Italian countries. We represent a multidisciplinary community within ICSC, and while applying to become a node, we thought that it was a great opportunity in order to be fully in line with the main goals according to which ICSC has been funded. The Italian government has established ICSC with two goals. The first one was to federate an infrastructure that was already present in Italy, HPC, cloud, and storage infrastructure, and the goal was to have a full federation of the resources for research. The second goal was to create a national ecosystem of researchers able to extract value from data. So when we had the chance to become a node, we thought that this was the natural step within the path that we were already doing at national level. The services that we will be providing to the Italian research community, but also to the EOSC research community at large, are therefore related to physical resources, so cloud, HPC, and storage federated infrastructure, but also data-related services, and everything related to data, so repositories and catalogs. Apart from that, we want also to serve specific services related to education and training programs, because we think that this is a very important part of the path that we have to make together. If you look at the status of the node development, as of now, the Italian node is enrolled with a federated AAI, and the service catalog of the node is already fully integrated with the EU node. We have already onboarded 18 services on the dev instance. As seen yesterday, it's not yet in production, but we have already onboarded 18 services. And if you look at the Italian node, you will be finding more than 20 services already available. What is interesting to me is that a plurality of actors and entities have already contributed to this service catalog, really giving the sense of a national node. We have a service provider for research like GAR, but also research performing organizations and universities, both being already part of ICSC and members of ICSC or not yet part of ICSC. We had a contribution, for example, of CNR, INFN, and INAF that are part of the community and the universities, but also other universities not part of ICSC has become part of the Italian node. This is one of our goals, so to be inclusive and be able to reach the full Italian community. Also, the Italian nodes of research infrastructure has already contributed in onboarding services within the Italian node. The grand challenges that we did face were already mentioned both by thematic and national nodes. We will be working a lot on policies and agreements, so to have access to services, especially on compute and storage services. We will be working a lot, I think, on AAI, so to have a really full integration and federation. Apart from that, and this is something that I think will be touched also in the next presentation, we will need continuous institutional support. But apart from that, we already had several benefits for our community. And being one of the first wave node gave us the opportunity to work on strategy and policies since day one, and this is very important. Apart from that, we think that this is already giving visibility to the Italian community. Yesterday, two of the use cases in which we were involved were already presented, so I will not spend a lot of words on this. We participated in one use case together with CERN. The idea in here was to use the Italian distributed data lake as a federated environment for hosting data that could be processed executing scientific workflows in the EOS context. The second one was developed together with BBMRI ERIC. In here, we exploited sensitive data storage and analysis facilities, leveraging the INFN ISO certified region. We did work on these two specific use cases that, in our vision, will become services in the next future for the Italian node. My last slide is related to the added value that we think we might have for the research community. As an Italian node, we want to contribute to change the culture and make open science the new normal. And we want to support a strong federation of infrastructure. We are already doing it at national level, we are doing it, and we want to do it at the European level. We think that also participating in this initiative is something that will allow us to create synergies with other initiatives in which we are involved, like the AI Factory for Finland. But it's something very important, especially for our research community, because it will increase the opportunities for Italian researchers and research communities at large. Thank you.
Thank you, Matteo. And now, Jos, the floor is yours.
All set. So I have to push myself. Hello. Being an actor on the stage here of the EOSC Federation play, I'm going to introduce shortly the EU.NODE node, which is a little bit of a different beast. It's an e-infrastructure node, meaning that the EU.NODE node delivers services as itself. So you could compare this a little bit with the EOSC EU node, which is already in operation. Therefore, I'll explain a little bit what we do. So the EU.NODE node is a composition of members that contribute to the services, and they come from a number of countries with a number of members. And the users that we try to address is already in our part. So we are already addressing the EU.dot organization is already addressing users, but it's communities, it's itself, infrastructures itself. But I think it's also important to mention the fact that we also address individual researchers. So you could come there even as a single individual and get and use the services of EOSC. The EOSC services are built on a portfolio of a range of data management services which were developed over the last 10, 15 years with the help of European projects. And some of them are maybe even known here, but they comprise of a set of services that deliver data enhancements and in the end ensure that data is fair and data can be handled by researchers in a fair manner, and also helps you to make the data fair. Now, I was actually planning to show a video, which I'm not going to do, to help the Masters of Ceremony over there. But in this video, I wanted to explain how the node is going to work, what we have in mind for this candidate node. It's a platform where you as researcher, as interested person, can use and build your own group of services and group of your own community. This is going to be developed. This is already part of the developed, and it's of course accessible through the EOSC U node, as you heard yesterday. So it's a single sign-on where you then enter into this node, and you don't need to do any additional logins. That's going to be worked on, and getting there was, so this is going to be skipped. Can you help me here? If the next slide, thank you. So in getting there, what are the, so you're also interested, I suppose, as potential nodes, what we went to. And I think that I can sum it up, which is here on the first bullet, that for the organization it was a nice encounter, right? It was a sanitizing thing. So everybody in this organization of EOSC had to understand the common goal of what we were going to work towards. And that meant a deep dive, but at the same time it actually worked for members to align and to work together on this node. So it's a kind of an act that helped us focus on a viewpoint. It of course helped us also to define more, let's say, organizational structures, procedures, processes within the organization, but that came afterwards. Then, lastly, what were the benefits of joining the EOSC Federation? It actually strengthened the organization in itself. I think that we heard yesterday that it's part of a socio-technological effort that we're doing here, and I can totally agree. For organizations, or if you want to join as node, that actually helps also to get your act together and to work towards a common goal. And then further of that. I already mentioned the processes, and if you are a node, it's probably scattered all over different institutes or maybe even different countries. And then it helps, of course, also to align these things. And lastly, I would say that services that are developed anywhere in this kaleidoscope of institutes that form the node also need to be aligned, because you're talking from the node to a single entity in the federation, this famous interoperability, and it helps also to get up to speed to continue this work towards interoperability, and therefore also to be a, let's say, member of the federation. And this is where I conclude.
Thank you very much, Jos. So we are now at the end of the 4 presentation, and I think we got very quick and clear insight about 4 different types of nodes. So let's move now to the panel discussion. And with that, I would like to start with 2 questions. And you are free to select one of these or the 2. I just would like to ask you to be quite brief because we don't have a lot of time. But they are very related, as you will see. The first one is really to look back to your application in 2024. So what drove you to seek EOSC candidate node status in the first place? And what needs or ambition were you hoping EOSC would help you address? So this is the first one. And entering the build-up phase in March 2025, as you became part of the first EOSC build-up cohort, how did your node start contributing to the federation, and what early results of proof of value have you already seen? I think you have already said something about the second question, but maybe you would like to be a bit more precise and at least to address the first one. So who would like, Jessica, please.
Okay, thanks. So for us, I think it was quite obvious that we need to join because research is international and our users work in an international context. So the federation is something it's evident we have to join and promote this and be more federated and more interoperable. So that was our main driver. Then regarding how we engaged, so we engaged in the interoperability work with the service catalogs and the catalogs because I think myself that this findability is really one important key, that we have good quality metadata that works so that people can find their way. And we also, it helps us to get a better picture of the resources and plan and understand where we are. And the other part where we engaged especially was then the cybersecurity part, which we think is important.
Thank you, Jessica. Who would like, Matteo, you seem to be ready, or okay.
Okay, take the floor for 1 minute.
Yeah, exactly.
If I look at the reason why we decided to apply, it was natural for us to make this step, as said by Jessica. We were already working at the Federation of Resources on one side for the Italian research community, and on the other side we were already looking at creating communities of researchers, so a multidisciplinary environment in which to develop projects. So we thought that this was a huge opportunity for us to give more visibility to the results of the Italian research, to give and have access to data of quality in a distributed environment. So we thought that this was a natural step for us. If I look at what the activities already done, okay, the node is up and running. We have a node that is federated with the EU node, but this is a starting point. We are already working with our community, so to really have the community engaged and taking benefit of the services that will be on the node and participating in giving access to their services, so they will have more visibility both at national level, at European level. And apart from that, we did the work in the task force and all the various groups, but also on use cases that might become future services of the Italian node. With CERN, the connection was already established by one of our members, INFM, but we did create something new with BBMRI. We were not collaborating, so we had the opportunity to start and create a new collaboration, and this is one of the main advantages that you can take in being part of this kind of initiative, I think.
Thank you, Matteo. I think, Jos, you are ready to contribute? No?
Okay, so
it's up to you.
I think I wanted to add the assurance of being part of a federation for the users of EUDAT. It's not to be neglected that if you're singled out, although you're of course a very professional organization, blah, blah, people will not find, first of all, everything within the service portfolio that you have, so they can jump out and use things that are offered elsewhere in the federation, given still the benefits of what the federation offers in single sign-on, blah, blah, and these things. And therefore it complements, and I think that is an attractor for using these services that we offer.
Thank you. Andy?
I mean, I think it's true for many of you, Jan, because I've seen you in many symposia over the last 10 years, is that it's been a long journey. I mean, we started this already, at least I would say, I would put it back to 2015 in our community. And then when the infra-EOS projects came along and we got funded, we started working on this. But after those projects had ended, if we'd stopped there, or if EOSC had stopped there, it would have been a big letdown, I think. So there was a lot of momentum which we wanted to keep going. And I think the federation was the most concrete thing I've seen coming out as a collective effort, more so, and which has a longer, is supposed to live longer than all of the other projects. And so I think this is what's actually exciting about this point in time, and I can only encourage anyone who's thinking of becoming a node to either become a node or join a node, because that's when you're actually forced to think in concrete terms, what are you offering, what will it look like as part of the federation, and not just what you already have, yeah?
So you are a very good advocate for the federation. Thank you, Andy. So we started with quite easy questions just to warm you up a bit, and now we can move to the next steps.
Basically, we will talk now about the challenges and lessons learned from your experiences. This is something that you already touched upon in your presentations as well. But on the other hand, we would like to ask the question in the context of the potential advice to the new potential candidate nodes or the organizations that are working on developing a node. So if you were to select like one main challenge and one main advice, if it's possible, because I see that Matteo has some doubts. But if it's possible, okay, you can make it 3, yeah. What would it be? So who would like to start?
So somehow there is the right balance between top-down and bottom-up, right? I think that at this phase, one should try to do this more top-down, because the bottom-up approach has been worked on years, and that seems to work. But I think that one of the challenges, and also in the case of EUDAT, is that we need to organize these things now at a higher scale. Cross-border services, addressing things like legal issues. And you can only do this if management or if the structure is enshrined in a sustainable way, and not trying to get up something and we have some services and we want to bring this in the EOSC Federation. That is not going to succeed in the long run, I think.
One thing I would add, I mean, I agree that when you look down from the top, joining the federation and thinking you'll find an easy-to-use guide, even if I've been heavily involved with the handbook, it's still not the case. Yeah. So you have to, I think, the first thing even is to understand what you want to offer. I think this is where you have to think about what is your offer going to be as part of the federation. And then I think you'll be able to fit in more easily with, because there's still a lot of unknowns. This is the problem of building it as we go along. So then you'll be able to also challenge what's being offered or what's been said in terms of onboarding guidelines, things like that. But the most important thing, I think, is to have a clear idea of what your own offer and your own added value will be in terms of who you're going to offer this to. Yeah? I don't think, if you come to the federation and say they're going to tell me how to do everything, you'll probably be frustrated. Yeah?
Okay, it's technical, but not only technical, the problem. So basically, you will be facing a lot of technical aspects, but very often they will be related to agreements and policies. So you have to be very careful in creating a framework, especially for national nodes. Engaging the community is something continuous. It's something that takes time, but enrich you a lot. And you have to work a lot on agreements, both in federating, looking at the real EOSC federation, but also at national level. And it's not easy, but it's something that might bring to something more valuable, because it might bring to multidisciplinary researchers or activities that, as a standalone community, you are not able to do.
Yes, I think the challenges have been addressed here, and as advice, it's similar to what Matteo said, that I think it's important to engage enough people. There are so many levels and so much expertise needed that you really need to get enough people engaged. So that takes time and effort, because people need to be introduced to each other and to all the details.
Thank you. Indeed, EOSC Association has launched landing pages for every node on the website. And I think it exactly shows how many people are involved, how much expertise it needs to build a node. So I think that still it confirms what Klaus said yesterday as well, that EOSC building process is not only a technological process, but it's a social infrastructure. So I see that this is one of the very valid points here, and something that you would like to convey to those who are preparing for building a node. So now we'll move to the next question.
Thank you, Anita. Yeah, so making it last. This is the title we put for this question. Because so you already mentioned the issues related to the governance, the business model, the needed support from institutions. So for you, if we want to be a bit more concrete, which governance and funding approaches do you believe will make your node and the federation, but let's focus on the node first, sustainable, trustworthy, and fair over the long term? So what are your options? I believe you haven't addressed all of them yet, but what are your options in terms of governance and business model? Who would like to start? Yeah?
The way I see it is, we have to offer something which the researchers want. And in wanting it and finding it useful, they will also learn to depend on it. And I think the best option will be that gets integrated into our own operation costs. Yeah? I don't believe that it's going to be operated by, or all the operation costs will be covered by an external funding, even if, of course, it would help. I know there's been some discussions with the Commission, but I think the real value will come from the fact that the communities will want what they see, what's new, and they will have to integrate it somehow into their own operating costs. Yeah? The same as fair data today, we say that scientists have to integrate, they have to change their habits, but we don't give them more money to do that. Yeah?
So just a follow-up question. Yeah. If it has to be in the operational cost of the user, how do you see the governance? Does it have any impact on the governance?
No. Well, in our case, we are facilities, so we fund it already. So in the sense of, we'll have to take some of our budget to fund some of that because of what value it's actually adding. Yeah.
So basically, the operations should be maintained by the organization, but then when it comes to the innovation aspect, as it was mentioned yesterday, should probably be supported by external funding, for instance, and then at the later stage incorporated into the operations as well.
of the organization. This is how you would see it as well?
Yeah, I could maybe continue that. I think I've been saying that this is not actually, we are not building a new service. We are trying to do things in a new way. So using the resources we have in a smarter way and becoming more interoperable and more fair and learning to collaborate more fair. Also, I think if being a national node, it really means you need to work hard with engagement and really have the sort of real mandate for all involved infrastructures and research organizations and service providers. They all need to be seeing some value and benefit for joining this collaboration and building this trust also we heard about today. So yeah, I think that's key.
I fully agree. I think that being a national node, very often you have more services. So it also depends the kind of help that you are looking for on the services that you provide. For example, if you provide compute and storage, they cost a lot. So it's not only on the institution that is applying. You need a strong connection, both at national and European level, so to get access to the funds that you need, so to run every single service that you have in a portfolio, I would say. And you need a strong connection with the different initiatives that are currently available.
Yeah, so yeah, I like this idea, Andy, of your, what is it, kind of self-fulfilling engagement or momentum or something, which will work. I'm speaking from the EUDAT side. I can also add that, of course, there's a lot of organizations behind it that already do this work. So if you talk about sustainability, I'm not saying that it's guaranteed. As mentioned yesterday, we were put back in reality by saying, well, nothing is forever, of course. But I also think that getting there, I mean, you may be able to shave off some costs, right? If you do this in a generic way, as we're trying to do now in the federation, but there are still some barriers, and maybe I'm taking away now questions, but I'm still using the moment. That means that this sustainability is seeing some limitations, because as we heard, if you have national nodes, well, national nodes need to collaborate with, they have researchers that collaborate across borders. And then what you do, so we still need to find a way to get this sustainability across these borders and across domains, which is of course easy if you have data access, and all of a sudden we think, of course, that the data is there and we can retrieve it, but that's not always the case, right? So that's some component that one shouldn't forget, I think, if you talk about sustainability.
Thank you for your different answers. Let's move to the last question of the panel, and then we will ask you all to contribute to the Slido. So the last question is that if we ask your users 1 year from now, what is one concrete improvement they should be able to notice thanks to your nodes participation in EOSC? So very brief, only one example, 1 minute each or less.
So I can say that this federated AI will be hopefully something that will benefit the end user, that it would be easier to use services across borders and disciplines and log in and out and move data and stuff. So that I hope we can achieve soon.
I'm taking it a little bit further than 1 year, but I hope that we still have access to all our data in 5 years in a free way.
did I say? No, I think all of the servers that we've shown, that they'll find those that the large community will have access to those services, yeah, in that way, and they'll find data which they couldn't find beforehand, and maybe even they won't need to do so many experiments in the future because the data will be there, and they won't have to repeat them. Yeah.
I agree with what has been said. So another point, I think that we can work on creating synergies with other initiatives that are ongoing. So this is something that can bring additional value to the overall community.
Wow, you've been more than efficient. Thank you very much. I think we can, before moving to the Slido, we can do a first round of applause to our speaker. Thank you very much. So you see, you ask for 1 minute, and actually in 30 seconds it's done for everyone. So it's perfect. Thank you very much. So now let's move to the Slido. If you can show again. Okay, so the first question of the Slido was what would motivate your organization to join the EOSC Federation, and we prepared a couple of options for this first question, and we can see that the first one is the funding and sustainability opportunities. It's quite an important one, but also the visibility and interoperability of the services. So I think if I would like to also say to the speakers that if at some point you would like to comment on one of the results, we will go very quick, but at least if one of you would like to say something, don't hesitate. Okay, so these are the two most important. And the last one that's interesting is the influence on EOSC policies and standards. So it's not the first motivation. That means at least that there is some trust, because if you don't want to influence, that means you already think that the policies and standards are quite involved enough the community. So that's quite interesting to see the result. Maybe, as we don't have, I'm trying to keep the time, maybe we can, yeah, exactly, thank you. Move to the next question, so now you can answer to it. I can read it. How do you define the right size of a node by community scope, number of services, thematic focus, or national institutional boundaries? It's a very important question for Aneta and I, because when we discussed to prepare the session, we thought that it's not always easy to define the perimeter of a node, and I think it's a question that comes back very often. So, okay, all size must be accepted. Good. There is not. Do you want to say, yeah?
No. Yeah, sure. Okay, so this one sounds better, No, I wanted to stress the fact that although there are national nodes, and we probably need that for all kinds of funding and legal regulations, right? We should always look out for cross-border international efforts. I think, as mentioned also yesterday, right, this is one of the assets in Europe that we should strive to get this forward in a way that we are trying with the AEI. We're trying to limit this to reduce the access threshold, right? And then you can cross all the different nodes. I think we should do the same for access using services in different countries, and each of the national nodes should have a face forward towards the international platforms. Yeah.
If I could, just a comment. It depends also on what your vision is of what you think the federation should become. So, personally, I have a problem if I imagine the federation is 10,000, 100,000 nodes in 10 years' time. That's, for me, that's too fragmented. And I think that's why I say saying the size doesn't matter is a bit avoiding that question. I think my vision for where the federation should be going is a way of consolidating scientific research in different areas in Europe. So instead of having 100 astronomical nodes, 1 or 2 might be sufficient, and actually that encourages more sharing and collaboration in the same community. There's usually no reason to have so many. That's my own point of view on that.
So to avoid the fragmentation, for instance, that's why we should have the national nodes, for instance, that would be generic and cross-national thematic nodes.
Yeah, because if you're in a thematic node, you want to be European or even international. Yeah. But I think there's a big challenge for people to, some people are asking themselves the question now, should we go to a national node or thematic? In many cases, you should be in both if you're in science.
Multiple identities, right? I think this is what actually is actually based on.
Yeah.
That inclusive, not exclusive.
But I think for some countries, I don't know how strong the national, let's say, are they organized nationally yet, or is on the national level it's already fragmented, and that will make it difficult for them to have a single national node. Yeah?
Yes, so let's move to this next question, please. Which challenge do you think might be the hardest when connecting to EOSC? So I think during your presentations, during the discussion, we already heard a lot about challenges. One that was most of the interesting one for me was what Jessica mentioned about the super agile environment that the candidate nodes had to work within. So now we see actually we have a strong winner. Sustained funding and staffing, which basically it's in line with what was suggested in the first actually previous question. So the second one is the organizational coordination, and then legal and policy alignment. Technical interoperability seems like not to be that much of a challenge, and cultural shift towards openness. So I think this is a very clear message.
I would agree with that, because I think all the others are only a problem if you don't have staff. If you put staff on them, the requirements are not so difficult. Yeah?
And we are not maybe the right people to take this, because we applied with no funds to this initiative as of now. But looking at the future, I fully agree on the fact that we need this aspect to be tackled. And it's very clear that some aspects are given for granted, I would say. So we have to work on the coordination and the alignment at policy level. This will be crucial for the next month of the federation, I would say.
Yes, it looks like, because now, yesterday, we had the ceremony of signing an MOU, but this is just the beginning of the longer process that is going to be more tighter, let's say, in terms of the legal basis for the collaboration. So this is also that should be taken into account, I assume.
Yeah, we have to work, as said, especially as a national node, looking at the federation, but also at the community that we have at national level. On one side, it's something that, as soon as we show that we can get results, and with the use case, I think that the community will become closer and closer, and they would like to be part of the node, and we have to be open in getting every entity that is interested in participating.
Yeah, but this is, yeah, and another question, do you think that LC, for instance, like aspects should be also included in this context? Because yesterday it was shown that in Robert's presentation that what should probably differentiate Europe from China, from States, is actually the human rights and the focus on the citizen, for instance, and also, you know, on the LC aspects as well.
I can reply as an Italian node. We put in our proposal a reference to this aspect, because we think that is very, very important. We can provide services on this. They are not already on the EOSC Italian node page, but as ICSC, we are also part of European projects on this aspect, on the AA Act sandbox. So we are open, and we think that this will be one of the services that we will be providing within the EOSC Federation. And we are collaborating with the CSC on this project, so we are already somehow collaborating also on this.
Yes, you want to intervene, or can we? Yeah.
Well, to the last thing, what makes Europe different, I don't think that the nodes can make this difference, right? It's enshrined in what we are in Europe, so it's good to understand that, but I'm not going to think that we can then leverage this. Well, we can use it, I suppose. Yeah.
I would add what was missing from the slide of Robert was openness. I think openness is European. It's quite a strong, let's say, value in Europe, but it should be enshrined, you know.
Thank you. Let's move to the next question, please. Or, yeah. How many do we have? So if your organization were to apply as a candidate node today, how ready would you feel? Now. Who is ready to be part of the next wave? Oh, it's very balanced. Yeah, it's.
So we frightened them enough, right?
Yeah. So we don't have a lot of you ready, at least. But you still have a couple of months for the next wave to finalize and to find the last pieces that are missing. So
maybe one thing, I don't know if this would help, is, I mean, I'm involved again with writing and improving the handbook, but it could be interesting to have a session which is outside the handbook, where we just we give it to you straight, you know, we don't write it in a way which sounds great and which has been reviewed and re-reviewed and that. But maybe we could just have a session with people who have built a node or are building a node and give you some of the nitty-gritty details of what they had to do, what was difficult. Yeah? I don't know if this could be organized by the association, but it could be something.
good. Thank you. I think we can stop there the Slido now, and I will try to summarize a bit what has been said. So, I try to capture at least for me, the most important aspect, or the things that have been more and more repeated by all the speakers. So first, what we wanted to highlight in this session is the fact that we have to build a federation, so to reach a common goal. Several pathways are possible, and you have seen with the 4 examples of nodes today that there are very different types of nodes that are currently under construction, and with different perspectives, so the thematic, the national, but also the infrastructure. But more than that, in the way they are shaped, in the number of institutions or facilities or type of services that they have, you can see that there are several ways to proceed and to build the nodes. And one of the questions in the Slido regarding the size, you all have been very clear that we can do whatever we want as long as it's useful for the users. And it brings me to some of the key aspects mentioned by our speakers, which the first one actually is the user journey or the user-centric approach. Each of them have mentioned this aspect in their presentation. So really the focus on the user, making sure that all the services and also the services are useful for the community they want to serve. One important aspect also is that besides the classical, I would say, services such as the catalog, the discovery, the AAI, and so on, each of them mentioned the training aspect. So we can see that training is more and more important, and it's closely related to the user onboarding and the user journey. They also mentioned the AI and HPC, so showing that what they want to build for their nodes is also related to what is happening or needed in terms of other types of technology or supercomputing. and that when you want to build a node, it's really, if you want to be concrete, if you want to serve well your community, it's very useful when you start from use case, very concrete use case, and then to transform them into concrete services. So these are the key aspects I've noted. Regarding the challenges, we have a lot of challenges, but most of them are focused on the governance, governance with the multi-partner node, especially how to manage or to balance between the independency of the facilities and a strong coordination to make sure you have something, an harmonized offer to make to your user. So kind of strong and coherent coordination while maintaining the independency of the organization. The changing environment, I think this is something we are all experimenting and at some point suffering because our environment are changing very quickly. Not only in terms of the building of the federation, but also in terms of technical development. The policy issues, which are closely related to the governance, with the legal barriers, the business model, and so on. And one aspect about addressing the top-down. So when we want to build a node, we start with most of the time with a bottom-up approach, but at some point, some of the issues need to be addressed with a top-down approach, and I think it was also an interesting aspect to mention. We have also noticed a lot of different types of benefits. I would like to insist on one specific, which is the fact that the EOSC Federation and the nodes are there to provide services, but much more than that, behind the fact that we want to provide services, we are building and we coordinate the community that we serve. And I think it's also something very important because it's not only providing services, but making sure that the community we serve or we have in mind are able to work together to build new projects, build new innovation, and so on. So this is something that is maybe less highlighted when we are talking, mentioning the EOSC Federation or the nodes, but this is also a very important aspect in the work that we do every day. Also the complementarity or the diversity of the organization involved in building one node. And why? Because so much expertise is needed. As Jessica said, so indeed we need a lot of different types of expertise, legal, business model, governance, technical, and so on. And so we need to be several, so we need also to align all together and to agree on what we want to do. In terms of concrete improvement, so what we have heard is that the access data in 5 years, the AAI, the large facilities access, and the synergies with other types of organizations. So I think it reflects well also what we had in the Slido and in the previous in the panel. And maybe I would like just to finish with one aspect because it's really interesting to see that in the Slido, the cultural shift towards openness was the less important one for those who answer to the Slido. It's first a victory because it shows that for us it's already done or it's almost done, the shift towards openness. However, regarding what is happening elsewhere, I would like to warn us all that it's not because we have the feeling that it's done that it will stay open in a few years. So in my view, and here it's completely personal, even if we have the feeling that it's not something we need to defend, I still think we have to defend it much more than previously because of what we see elsewhere. So I would like to finish with this with this specific mention. And with that, I think we are done. Thank you very much. I would like to thank again the panelists. Thank you. But also thank you to you for your contribution to this session with the Slido. So thank you as well.